The importance of discipline early in a child's life. In the text Wes Moore, One Name, Two Fates, one can see how a lack of means of structure and discipline negatively affect Wes's life, compared to the positive effect that the presence of structure and discipline has on Moore's life. The reader sees Wes's lack of discipline ultimately get him behind bars, and Moore's discipline get him so much success that he gets to give a speech at the same podium as Barack Obama. I was lucky enough to have a strong presence of structure and discipline early in my life. My parents openly showed their love and support for me, but were able to stand up to me when I needed to be corrected or told no. Ultimately, in Moore's Wes Moore, One Name, Two Fates, the effects of Wes's lack of discipline compared to Moore's means, such as getting sent to Valley Forge for acting up and not listening to his mother, one can see that the presence of structure and discipline early in a child's life will shape the kind of person they become as they grow older. Discipline is one of the most important things parents can give their children when they are young. Even though no one enjoys getting their mouth washed out with soap or getting spanked or slapped, or even just getting yelled at when they are kids, it is necessary. In the book, Wes and Moore are both given different forms of punishment and react different ways. For example, when Wes's mother first discovers his stash of drugs, she has a very strong reaction. She sat paralyzed on the bed for 15 minutes before springing up, suddenly decisive. She took the boxes into the bathroom, lifted their tops, and emptied their contents into the toilet. She watched every ounce, every rock, every leaf, every crystal flow to the bottom of the toilet bowl until the water was cloudy and white. She flushed it away once, and then again until the water in the bowl returned to its normal clarity. She put the tops back on the boxes and placed them on Wes's bed. I believe this reaction may not have been the best form of discipline when they were thinking about long-term consequences. Although Wes's mother effectively made sure there were no drugs in her house at that moment, flushing them down the toilet did not really do anything to teach Wes not to bring them around again. In fact, as we see in the book, it only angers him and teaches him to be sneakier with where he hides them. When he sees his boxes sitting on his bed initially, he knows he's in deep trouble. It makes sense that Miss Moore would dispose of them, but if she were to hide them from him instead and then given him a firm scolding, or perhaps even hit him, or even call the police or ask Tony for help, Wes would have most likely learned his lesson much more effectively. Additionally, if Tony sat him down and talked to him about the dangers of the drug game, even though he has done it before, it still could have changed Wes's life. Without a father figure, Tony was Wes's only male presence in his life, so he was his biggest role model. Tony tried to tell Wes not to get involved in the drug game, but his actions told Wes the opposite. Wes wanted to be just like Tony, so he got started in the drug game as a watch for police. This way he was not directly dealing like Tony asked, but he could make money. It cannot ever be said what would have happened for sure if Tony were to have tried harder to be a better role model for Wes, but I firmly believe the outcome would have been much greater. Young children's minds are shaped early in life. Wes was exposed to Tony's bad behavior early in his life, which gave him more time to get mixed up in it himself. This is a very common issue in today's society and has been for quite a while. Young children lack the discipline and role models they need, so they end up taking the wrong path in life, just like Wes. On the other hand, we see Moore slowly becoming more and more like the kind of person Wes is becoming. He did not have a father or a brother to look up to, so his friends were his biggest influence. We see this come true his first time getting in trouble with the police for tagging him with his friend. Afterwards, he says, "The cop gave us a gift that day, and I swore I would never get caught in a situation like that again." Wes was not a troublemaker or a bad kid by any means, but the kids that he hung out with were changing him. He says he would not do anything like this again. However, a week later, Kid Cupid was on the loose again, adding my tag to another graffiti-filled Bronx wall. Moore began getting worse grades and developing an attitude, Moore began getting worse grades and also began developing an attitude his mother did not like. Moore's mother had already threatened him previously with military school because of his bad grades, but Moore thought she was bluffing. Luckily, his mother cared enough about him to spend the money to send him to Valley Forge. This was by far one of the best and most important decisions Miss Moore made for her son. If he did not attend military school, he would most likely have kept getting in trouble with the law and possibly could have ended up in prison, just like Wes. Many kids today are not nearly as fortunate as Moore. If money was not a factor, many more kids could go to military school and have their lives saved. Kids who grow up in bad neighborhoods with parents who do not give them the correct discipline, regardless of the reason, are doomed from early in life. Even though Wes did not agree with the disciplinary actions used by his mother at first, he began to understand, even appreciate it as time went on. It changes the path of his life from failure to success. Neither of Wes's mothers had very much money, and we see this become a factor in both Wes's lives. Weston originally became a lookout for a group of drug dealers in order to get some extra money. With his father and Tony always gone, Wes was the man of the house from an early age. His mother did not even have enough money to support herself. His mother did not have enough money to support herself and go to college, so she barely had enough to get Wes any extra luxuries, such as expensive clothes. These reasons are what finally pushed Wes to take the job in the drug game, regardless of all the equally good reasons not to. He lived in a drug-ridden area most of his life. Over 1,700 units in Cherry Hill became a breeding ground for poverty, drugs, and despair. If you're not from Cherry Hill, you don't go to Cherry Hill. Growing up in this kind of environment makes it very easy to get involved with the wrong people and get in a lot of legal trouble. This is also anything but uncommon in bad areas today. Parents do not have money to support their kids, so kids turn to drug money. Some parents even encourage their kids to be involved in selling drugs to get the extra money. One key difference between Wes and Moore and Moore's One key difference between Wes and Moore was Moore's mother had people she could go to for money. She went to her parents and friends and begged them for money to send Moore to Valley Forge. If Wes's mother would have had the same connections and had been able to send Wes to Valley Forge too, maybe he could have ended up just like Moore. As Moore says, the chilling truth is that his story could have been mine. The tragedy is that my story could have been his. One of the main reasons Wes's story did not become Moore's was because of this lack of money and therefore lack of discipline. Just like Wes, many people living in poverty have no one to turn to for help. They feel stuck and sometimes can be so caught up in trying to keep their own life on track that they forget the effect that this atmosphere has on their children. I am very fortunate that my childhood was nothing like Wes or Moore's childhood. I grew up in Cuyahoga Falls in a great neighborhood with kids my age that lived all around me. I have been friends with these kids who are now grown up just like me for as long as I can remember. We have always played sports together even made up games ourselves. My parents do not live together and never have. However, they have lived 5 minutes away from each other my entire life, so I've been able to see each of them every day. They took great care of me and raised me to become successful. A big part of them raising me was disciplining me. I was fortunate enough to be sent to a private school and get the best education possible. However, I did not always get the best grades in grade school. My dad would ground me and take my iPod Touch away whenever I had anything below a C on my report card. I loved my iPod almost as much as I love my phone now, so I would work hard to make sure I could get it back. This discipline helped teach me to focus on school and then worry about luxuries later. My parents have always been concerned about my education and have always had high expectations for me. Additionally, when I was younger, I would frequently get into things that I was not supposed to. My mother still has a picture of me covered in pancake mix from when I was little on a day I was getting into the pantry when I should not have been. Although it was comical, my mother still had to yell at me, so I knew not to do it again. She understood that without discipline I would not learn. These are two good examples of how my parents were able to balance discipline with love, unlike some parents are able to do. I'm sorry. Okay. I believe the way people behave in high school very well reflects how well they are disciplined when they were younger. I believe I was raised rather well and it shows. I've never been suspended, never received a Saturday school, and never even been given as much as that attention. I rarely even get in trouble at all at school. I mostly just stay quiet in class, which most teachers appreciate. The only thing I ever get in trouble for is being on my phone when I should not be. I have never been in a physical fight, and I have never been caught with drugs because I do not take drugs. These are two things that quite a few people in my school cannot say to be true for themselves. When I started freshman year, I did not come in with much motivation to work and did not really have plans for the future yet. However, as high school moved along, I obtained the goal to go to Ohio State and become a patent lawyer, so I decided to start working harder in school. My grades steadily improved, and by my junior year, I was getting 4.0s on my report card every quarter. I very firmly believe my success and good behavior is due to my parents. When I acted up when I was younger, they knew how to discipline me. Parents need to discipline kids early on because, as we see in this book, as they get older, they do not listen as well. When Wes was in middle school and accidentally busted open his sister's lip, His mother tried to hit him, but it did not work. Wes was getting older and tougher and did not want to show weakness by giving in. She simply pulled back her right hand and slapped me in the face. The burn consumed the entire left side of my face. Not willing to show fear or weakness, I stood there looking back at her. I guess she was expecting tears or apologies. When neither came, she reached back and unloaded another slap to my face. She looked at me again, waiting for a reaction. The days when she could physically intimidate me were clearly over. We see such a large difference in this scene in the way Wes reacts to his mother coming at him versus the time he was little and hit Nikki. He was only 3, and when his mother came at him, he was absolutely terrified. He ran up to his room, terrified, and tried to hide from her. Back when he was younger, it was much easier to discipline him, but as he grew older, it became increasingly difficult. On the contrary, I believe I'll be successful when I grow older. I will continue to be a good person who does not act out after college when I get a real job. My parents have been teaching me the importance of working hard in college to get a good job so I can make a good living when I get older. Although I do not believe I will become as successful as Moore, I know for a fact I'll become much more successful than Wes. I will never become a drug dealer and I will never rob a bank because I was raised better and taught early on not to. I understand the consequences of making these bad choices and I have the ability to think long term in the moment, unlike Wes. Wes did not think of long term until it was too late, like when he was getting arrested for robbing the bank. Moore writes, maybe he never thought of long term at all. Maybe he never thought long term about his life at all. Early losses condition you to believe that short-term plans are always smarter. Now Wes's mind wandered to the long term for the first time. Finally, he could see his future. I believe that my ability to understand long-term consequences of my actions before I make them will have a large role in my success in my life. In conclusion, the presence of discipline early in the lives of children is vital to their success in life. In the book, The Other Wes Moore, One Named Two Fates, the reader sees just how bad a lack of discipline becomes for Wes versus the great turnout the presence of discipline has in Moore's life. Additionally, the lack of discipline has been an increasing problem in today's society. Many parents are afraid to hit their kids and do not even like to yell at them when they are misbehaving. This lack of discipline only escalates into bigger issues as they get older. Something must be done soon to ensure kids are being raised in the best possible environment. It is my hope that this problem becomes noticed more in the future and significant change can be made to ensure that no one has to go down the same road that Wes did.